Thank you very much, George. It's a great honor, to be honest, to be here. And let me start to make some comments about Egemen Bağış's speech. Unfortunately, he's not here, and I don't feel comfortable talking behind him. But we had an agreement with one of the journalists. She will record what I said now, and she will make sure that Mr. Bağış will listen to me. I'm coming from a country in that our prime minister's wife is not allowed to enter into official buildings. Can you imagine something like that? I mean, we are in the 20th century, and Turkey is a candidate to the European Union, and the wife of the elected prime minister, who came to power with getting 48% of the votes, cannot get into official buildings, universities, etc. And this government was at the gunpoint up until, just 2-3 years ago. I am saying this because this government also was targeted by the deep state elements in Turkey. But unfortunately, they are also following the footsteps of the deep state themselves. I mean, this government. They are the victims of the system in Turkey. They are the victim of the deep state, but they are following. I mean, I would like specifically refer to Mr. Bağış's hesitated behavior about the title, ecumenical. I mean, you see, he came forward with a very intelligent explanation. He said, I'm not from this congregation, so I don't need to. But this is not true. If we advocate freedom of religion, we should pay full attention and full respect to how people call their religious leader. We call, thank you. We call Pope, we call Prophet Muhammad, we called Said Nursi, Bediüzzaman Said Nursi, we called Hoca Efendi in Turkey. So we should call ecumenical patriarch. I think this is our obligation, and this is the basic premises to show respect to freedom of religion in Turkey. My presentation's title is The Rights of Religious Minorities Under Turkish Legal System. Maybe we can add a bracket. We can say Turkish legal system and political system, because as I will try to explain, it is almost impossible to separate them together, or you cannot understand anything about Turkish legal system without having some background about the political system and the history. Let me try to summarize my presentation. If I have to summarize my presentation, I would put these sentences. Modern Turkey is based on the exclusion of non-Muslims and oppression of Muslim identity. Turkey used fait accompli strategy against non-Muslims. During the AK party period, fait accompli strategy ended, but rights period started. I will explain all of them later on. Ergenekon probe is a turning point for minorities and Turkish democracy. Turkey needs to confront with its past openly and honestly. Turkey needs to recognize Muslim and non-Muslim congregations and their institutions as such. When it comes to legal status of religious minorities in Turkey, we have this legend or urban legend of Lausanne Treaty, because everyone refers to this. Under Lausanne Treaty, according to Lausanne Treaty. But what else do we have in Turkey? Nothing. In 1923, Turkey signed an agreement, international agreement, Lausanne Treaty, and under which it taken some obligations. But as far as I am concerned, I have not seen any positive reference to Lausanne Treaty in Turkish legal system so far. The only references I have seen were negative ones. So what we are talking about is here is a huge legal gap, legal loophole. I can't find the correct word, loophole, yeah? And which is deliberately created by Turkish deep state. For many people, it is quite distracting and very confusing to understand what is really going on under Turkish legal system. They can't understand because there is nothing. I mean, we had millet system in Ottoman Empire. We abolished this system. We assume a secular system. But then we didn't replace anything. So there is a huge legal gap in Turkey, which is deliberately created by Turkish deep state elements to make religious minorities suffer, actually. And this is also a part of a strategy in Turkey, which I refer as fait accompli strategy. Turkish state has applied, or Turkish deep state has applied a fait accompli strategy against non-Muslims in which it has taken everything from these vulnerable groups with sudden and unexpected attacks, each of which has been followed a period of silence. And these silent periods have always been followed by waves of new attacks. Minorities have lost everything during this sacred war, which has been waged against them by modern Turkey. We should, if we understand this concept, we can understand everything. Our story started, unfortunately, massacres of Armenians in 1915, and this policy applied by the Progress and Union in Turkey, which turned into the deep state elements in modern Turkey, and they were behind many politics. They continue to getting rid of non-Muslims from Anatolia by exerting and by orchestrating pogroms, by imposing heavy tax, by taking all properties from non-Muslim communities by one by one. If you look at them, you can, as an outside observer, you can think all these things were happening coincidence, but if you ask me, none of them were coincidence. A very strong will appeared when Ottoman Empire was falling down, and Turkish state, Turkish national identity was based on this fact. Turkish means being Muslim, but not too much. As I was trying to explain, deep state is also wage a war against this government and against it is very, I know it is very difficult to understand because it doesn't conform with our well-known schablons, if you like. I mean, there was a war against non-Muslims waged by modernizers of Turkey, but this same group, exactly the same group, were also fighting against Muslims. If we understand this, we can understand what is really going on and what are the fundamental and main political dimensions of Turkey right now. With this government coming to power, I think they stopped this fait accompli strategy. I would like to make a reference to Robert Koptaş. I think he's also sitting there. Robert Koptaş is editor-in-chief of the Armenian Agos Weekly. He said, this government has been better than all the others. They renovated the church, which is great, but they must be braver. This was not enough. Most of the Turkish society is ready to accept this is an Armenian church. Now it is the government's turn. Mr. Koptaş is talking about a very specific event. He was talking about the opening of the Akdamar Church in Van. But I think his remarks also explaining the situation in Turkey. This government stop this fait accompli. They don't they don't take non-Muslims' properties from them, or they don't impose heavy taxes, etc. And they started to give some rights, but I call all of them but rights, because for every right there is a but. There is I cannot refer anything that okay, this was a perfect solution. This government gave non-Muslims this right, and it solved the problem. There is not single example that I can tell this. All of them are but rights. For example, you can have a worship in your historical churches, but only one day. I mean, Akdamar or Sümeleya. You can form associations, but to build a church, your association or your building, your church is not recognized as a church. You can apply to worship places. Mine was trying to explain this. None of the, only very few Protestant communities were successful in getting worship permits for building worship places. You can get your properties back, but there are a lot of exceptions. You can choose your religious leaders, but I can interfere whenever I want. You know, the latest one is the election of Armenian leader, which caused a quite big struggle and problem within the Armenian community. There is all the positive developments have some buts. I think there is something I can refer in a very positive way, and it is the opening of the Ergenekon probe in 2007. Ergenekon probe. There is a huge discussion in Turkey and abroad about the nature of this case, whether it is political, whether it is just brought to silence opposition in Turkey, etc. But as His All Holiness Bartholomew he says, they wish to overthrow the government and dissolve the AKP party through provocations, targeting us. What is our guilt? We believe a raid on a meeting of the Association of Zoroastrian High School alumni 4 years ago was aimed at intimidating us. When the cage plan was revealed, we thought the raid could have been part of that plan. He's referring to cage plan, which is a specific plan targeting Christians as His All Holiness said, targeting Christians to give a harm to the current government. But if you look at Ergenekon case, somehow all parts almost connected to non-Muslims. I would like to give you an example, which doesn't attract enough attention from the prosecutors. Ergenekon gangs, this is the deep state gang, was having its meetings in Turkish Orthodox Church. Turkish Orthodox Church is very well known by the Ecumenical Patriarchate in Turkey because it was established in 1923, and in all these 80 years, it had no congregation, no followers. What it did only to wage a war against the Ecumenical Patriarchate. And would it be a coincidence that Ergenekon was having its secret and most important meetings in the building of the church of this Turkish Orthodox Church? Of course, it was not a coincidence. I mean, if you follow the links in Turkey, you can see everything goes back to these massacres in 1915 and onwards and backwards, and this is a huge state tradition, unfortunately, in Turkey. I believe freedom of religion is the key for the future of democracy, and to broaden the scope of freedom of religion, to have a real freedom of religion, I think Turkey needs to do two things. One is at the political level. As I said before, I think Turkey needs to have an open and honest confrontation with its past. Before 1915, 25% of Turkey population consist of non-Muslims, Greek, Jews, Armenians. Today we have less than 1%. Of course, some of them left Turkey, some of them went to Greece, Armenia as a result of population exchanges, etc. But there were some other terrible things happened in Turkey. And it is very important, because I believe like persons, like individuals, no one can change himself without having an open confrontation with its past, with the elements which makes its character, its structure, etc. And I think it is true for Turkey. It is what happened to non-Muslims. It is not only a history in Turkey. It is something which still determines what is happening in Turkey today. This is the political level. When it comes to legal level, and I believe to this part, non-Muslims should contribute. Turkey needs to recognize Muslim and non-Muslim congregations and their institutions as such, but legally, constitutional, not with de facto measures or goodwill gestures. I mean, Ecumenical Patriarchate won this case, orphanage case, and Turkish government decided to return back the building. Does this mean that Turkey started to recognize the Ecumenical Patriarchate or any other legal institution? I don't believe so, because there is no such institution in Turkey. There is no, I mean, this is a goodwill. I mean, I welcome AKP party's decision to return back to this property, but this will not solve the problems of religious minorities in Turkey, because there is no such thing like a legal institution. There is no mosque, there is no church that is recognized by Turkish legal system, which should be created. So how can we do that? What needs to be done? New legal instruments and structures should be created. A new religious institution should be introduced by law to regulate the relations of the Ecumenical Patriarchate, and this institution's framework should be compatible with its ecumenical nature. New legal regulations should be introduced for the upper-level religious institutions of religious minorities. New legal regulations are needed for the recognition of religious congregations and their institutions. Churches, synagogues, and mosques should be given separate and distinctive legal capacities. This would be a revolution in Turkey, and which is desperately needed. In order to do this, I think we all need a new perspective. This process requires a serious shift in perspective on the part of congregations. First of all, they need to learn to seek their own rights and to act together. Freedom of religion is a ship everyone is aboard. If this ship is sinking or half of it is in the water, no one can go anywhere. And in the Turkish case, this ship has not gone anywhere for ages. No one should think that their part of the ship will continue sailing while the other parts of the ship are taking on water. I mean, you see, maybe this is one of the rare examples in which religious minorities came together. This should be more often. This should be done with a specific purpose. I mean, for example, we are going to this election period for the time being right now. This government would like to solve the headscarf problem. They want to solve it. Religious minorities, I think, they can come together. They can make a research. They can come to an agreement on some minimums, if you like, and they can propose some draft laws to this government. They can try to convince this government religious freedoms are indivisible. You cannot separate them. And I'm sure you would have much higher chances if we can introduce something like that, because it is also in their benefit. They would like to benefit. They would like to broaden the limits of freedom of religion for, let's say, Muslims, but they cannot do this without broadening without getting more freedom for non-Muslims. Because you cannot do this. I mean, I'm giving legal personality to churches, but I don't give it to mosques. You cannot do that. You have to solve this problem altogether. And I think non-Muslims should change their passive attitudes in terms of taking legal cases, introducing some legal. I would like to make a criticism that I wrote this about this before. If you look at the cases that the Ecumenical Patriarchate have taken so far, you can see they are only related to property issues, and they are just trying to get back their properties which were taken from them. But instead, they don't try to introduce new cases which will how can I say, which will question, which will bring new legal status to them. We heard Egemen Bağış. He said they are working on the Halki school. My impression, we will wait for ages, to be honest. From his statement, I got this impression they will not do that. For simple reasons, and they are right actually, because they have a very big difficulty to explain to this their grassroots. They couldn't solve this headscarf problem. They couldn't give anything to their grassroots, and then they will open this Halka school, and they will attract all this nationalist reaction from within and from without, because there are, unfortunately, there is a very strong, there is an existent wing, a nationalist wing in the AKP party. But a judgment from the European Court of Human Rights would have been a perfect excuse for this government. And unfortunately, so much time so far has been spent. Protestants, Catholics, the Orthodox Muslims all demand rights without having any strategy, any coordination with one another. They all hope that one day the state will solve their problems. But if they align with one another and coordinate a bit, they will have a much higher chance of influencing the government and the state policy. These congregations are not aware, but there are no ready solutions for the problems. They need to change their attitudes and start to demand specific rights and institutions. For this to be successful, they need to come together. Even if this government wants to solve the problems, and I can guarantee you, no one is aware the gravity of the problem of religions of freedom. People only understand from their angle. I mean, they know that headscarf problem is a serious problem. It's a serious human rights problem. You know, you cannot use the ecumenical title. It's a very big problem. Everyone knows their problem. They all somehow connected to each other because Turkey never respected to religion. I mean, I'm talking about modern Turkey. Mustafa, I'm sure will make an elaboration tomorrow on this about Ottoman and Turkish behaviors towards religion. So this government has not ready solutions. But we have a problem here. I mean, they have their own difficulties, this nationalism, etc., etc. But plus, they don't. I don't think they know how they can solve these problems. On the other hand, we have uncoordinated non-Muslims and Muslims. They all want their rights, but there is no coordination. There is no consensus amongst each other. Wouldn't it be much easier, let's say, all these communities come together and they agreed on a draft law, and they say, okay, this is something that we all agreed upon it, and we are submitting it to you. If congregations come together and see that there is no salvation for anyone on their own, they will start to develop common strategies and tactics to broaden the scope of their rights. They could introduce some strategic legal cases together. They could reach a consensus on some models to get recognition for their institution. they could benefit from the experience of the world and observe together how the limits of freedom of religion have been broadened in Turkey. So we have very deep problems. We do not have any foundations in Turkey on which we can, build all these freedoms, etc. We need foundations, and freedom of religion is vital, is a key for democracy in Turkey. I believe we have a heritage on which we can build this. In this sense, I'm really hopeful, and I would like to finish this part. I would like to receive your questions with the remarks of His All Holiness Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew. He says, "The culture of living together is a heritage of our civilization left for us. Let's make that heritage live on, and let us teach all, so that we do not suffer anymore and families do not perish." Thank you. Questions?
The first question, Orhan, is do you think that Turkey has to ratify the Convention on National Minorities of the Council of Europe?
Not only I think Turkey needs to ratify this, but also withdraw many, what we say, çekinceler? Reservations, yeah. Turkey made a lot of reservations to many international agreements that it signs, from social and economic rights to children's rights. I think Turkey should ratify this, and Turkey should withdraw its reservations. Yes, I believe so, because we only have this. The system is too backward. We have this Lausanne Treaty, but nothing else. So, I agree. And European Convention on Human Rights, yes. But you don't take cases, so we don't know how European Court of Human Rights will evaluate Turkish legal system in this respect. About the legal status of minorities and other things. As far as I know, there has been no case.
The next question is, but who is Turkey? How can different faith people come together? Your opinion?
Why not? Why they don't come together? I don't understand. Because as I tried to explain, what happened in Turkey, what happened to non-Muslims is nothing to do with religion in Turkey. It is, nationalism is a disease. This is my opinion. And unfortunately, it descended upon Turkey. It come from Balkans. It emerged in France first, then come to Turkey through Balkans. And what happened in Turkey? What happened to non-Muslims? It is all to do with nationalism. I can't. In Turkey, I was giving this example during the lunch. When Armenians were forced to go out Turkey, when these massacres were taking place, there were so many people in Turkey who were rejecting to what was going on the grounds of their religious beliefs, saying that this is against Quran, this is against their religious beliefs, etc. So we have this history of living together, as Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew said. I mentioned this sentence. So I don't see any obstacle to this.
We'll have two more questions, but we'll make them quick. The next question, Orhan, is, do you believe minorities can receive redress for rights violations from Turkish courts?
In the long run, maybe. Turkish courts, this is another part. We have this military structure as a part of deep state, and the Turkish military, especially the high courts, were always in favor of this system. I mean, you know this how this foundations problem created. In 1974, our appeal court gave an extremely embarrassing judgment about they commented on this 1936 declarations by the foundations, and it was really embarrassing. It was so ideological, it was so terrible. But I think it will change. It is changing, but it will take some time. I mean, in the short term, I can't see any possibility like that, unfortunately.
We have one last question, and I'll read it. You said there are no laws protecting religious minorities, but there is the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Does not this protect Syriac, Arameans in southeast Turkey, and Greeks in western Turkey who are indigenous? If not, why?
Which declaration you are mentioning? I don't know. Maybe a UN declaration, something, which is not binding, as you know. And the other thing, I was referring to Turkish legal system, the Turkish laws. I said there was this laws and treaty and nothing else. I mean, there is this talimat tezkere for the ecumenical patriarchate, which were issued by the governorate of Istanbul. And there is this huge gap. We have laws and treaty. It's an international treaty, and it is at the top of the legal hierarchy. And we have all this talimat and tezkere. They are soft legal documents that the governor, at least from a theoretical point of view, the governor changed it overnight. We don't have laws. We don't have bylaws. Nothing. There is this huge gap. And the other thing, you cannot, not only laws, you cannot see any reference to any non-Muslim groups in Turkish law, as if they are not exist. As if they are not exist.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.